Hello, everybody. Hope you guys are doing well today. Really excited to have our guest today. His name is Tadhg, and he is a comedian, an Irish comedian, and social media activist when it comes to Palestine. Really excited to have you on today. Thanks for joining. Today,
Cheers, buddy.
yeah, I appreciate it. So I think everybody wants to know this. Everybody really sees it on social media, and I have a lot of questions for you today. But the first one is, why are the Irish so supportive of Palestine? What's the story there?
What's the deal with that? It's like a Jerry Seinfeld bit, like. Um, so yeah, look, there's loads of reasons. I mean, to be reductive about it, I suppose we understand colonialism, so we understand the demonization of people who are oppressed and who have the temerity to fight back in any way, shape, or form against their colonial oppressors. The exact same colonial playbook, I suppose, that the British used against the Irish is being used now by the Israelis against the Palestinians. There are all sorts of kind of eerie parallels. Like there was a particularly brutal force of British soldier in Ireland in the 1920s called the Black and Tans. And after Ireland gained its partial independence from Britain, those same soldiers, literally that same like brigade, as it were, of soldiers moved from Ireland to Palestine. So there's literally direct kind of comparisons and parallels in that regard. But I think it's much more to do with the spiritual connection of identification from the Irish perspective, that there aren't any other countries in Europe I can think of that have the same deep understanding of what it is to be under colonial oppression. And as I say, the demonization, I think, is something we really connect with as well. The British used to depict the Irish as kind of simian, and you wouldn't trust us with your wife, animalistic and whatnot. There was a British Punch magazine that used to depict Irish people in that way, and there was like a Washington Post cartoon depicting Palestinians as kind of subhuman as well early on in the genocide. So the parallels are stark, I think, and we've got a unique perspective in Europe because, unlike, say, France, Germany, Britain, these countries will never understand what it's like to be oppressed and to be colonized. We can be a good, honest broker with kind of deep understanding and empathy. I think we're uniquely positioned in Europe, anyway, certainly in that regard.
Definitely. I actually didn't know that Palestinians as a collective are branded as all being terrorists.
Yeah.
And it seems that the Irish with the British, they also tried to depict them in a specific way. This was done through the media and newspapers and whatnot then.
Exactly. And like, you just reminded me of something there, that like there was a period where, it's like a lot of my Muslim friends would joke about the fact that, since 9/11, anytime they go to an airport, it's a tense experience. Like the Irish can actually identify with that in a way. Again, I don't think any other group would really identify with it in Europe. Because for a long time, Irish people, in the 80s and 90s, going to British airports would be under suspicion of being involved in terrorism as well, because we were all labeled as kind of like terrorists. And because the British have such a poor understanding of a lot of the countries that they colonize, it didn't matter that the Troubles were taking part in the north. If you were from the south of Ireland too, you could be easily suspected of being involved in what the British would describe as terrorism and what maybe people like me would describe as resistance. So I do think we have a kind of a secret weapon of understanding, I think, the Palestinian experience. And it's a reason why you get, I think, if you go to Ireland, you just don't get as much of a hysterical kind of approach to the conflict. You get much more of a nuanced understanding, because we've again been in that position where we're kind of dismissed as terrorists and whatnot, whereas the full picture is much more nuanced, as you know.
Absolutely. As an Irish, through the experience the Irish people faced with the British and how the Irish were able to overcome that, do you see mirroring in how the Palestinians will have to overcome their current occupation? Do you see a lot of similarities there as well?
That's a tough one, man. It's a good question. I mean, there are lots of similarities, and we've spoken about them already in terms of, the Irish being dehumanized and understanding colonialism and stuff. Um, there's a brutality to the Israelis that a lot of my friends in Ireland, when I talk to them, I don't think anybody has really seen this level of brutality and this level of kind of hatred before. I mean, like, I wouldn't be famous for saying, the British Army were reasonable dudes, but of the atrocities they carried out in Ireland, it always felt like it was from the perspective of, expansionism and the colonial kind of outlook, more than a specific hatred of Irish people as necessarily ethnically inferior to them, and they just wanted to wipe them out. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas there's something more going on with the Israeli perspective. Yes, it's expansionist. Yes, it's supremacist in its thinking, but it's also this just kind of wanton desire to destruct the Palestinian population. I don't think the British were, certainly not on that scale. I think the difference as well, another key difference, is that the Irish had the Americans on their side. So like it or lump it, I would probably be in the lump it camp. The Americans still kind of ruled the world diplomatically. And so when the Irish were agitating for freedom, even in the south of Ireland, for our partial liberation in the south, and involved in the peace process as well in the north of Ireland, the Irish-American kind of lobby played a huge role in helping Ireland to achieve its desires. And I mean, even going forward into full liberation and a united Ireland, that will be a process that will require assistance from Irish America, again, and American support. It seems to me as an outsider that the Palestinians just don't have that support at all. They don't have a major international player on their side, and that's the great tragedy. They seem to have kind of slipped down through the cracks of Western imperialism, and nobody is well placed to kind of defend their issues in a really honest, passionate way. They have allies of some description for sure, but in terms of big players in the West, they don't have that. And I think without that, I don't know would Ireland ever have achieved even partial liberation,
Absolutely. Do you see significant shift in Europe outside of Ireland?
Like, I definitely do, and it's important to, like, you guys do great work, great work, and a lot of the shows, the independent media that I watch, it's clear from your reporting and in my own experience, my own empirical experience of Ireland, Britain, a few other, I've been to marches in France. Like, there's a massive difference between the people who rule these countries and the actual people on the ground. And I think there's even a big difference in terms of the age range of people. Like, this is a generalization, but younger people in most European countries who are kind of on the left, or who are at least interested in anti-imperialism, not only support Palestine, but they see Palestine, I think, as almost epitomizing everything about Western imperialism and why it needs to be disbanded, why we need to get rid of it. So the leaders, I think, the chasm between the leaders in the West and the people just gets wider all the time. Like, I cannot believe that we're 20 months into a genocide, and there's been like a little bit of tough talking from Ireland, a little bit of tough talking from Spain. But other than that, there's been no real sanctions. Like, I think people will look back in this period and just be absolutely baffled how Europe and America is still not just turning a blind eye, but aiding and abetting, and the co-conspirator, the co-architect of this murder and mayhem. Whilst all that's going on, people are marching on the streets all over Europe, like, weekly. Like, in my own country, in Ireland, there's rallies and marches for Palestine, like, almost daily. But if I was to be critical, and I'd be critical of myself here, because I am involved in the movement in Ireland a good bit, unfortunately, we haven't done enough to potentially bring a government down. Like, I feel like the governments in the West should be brought down for their complicity in a genocide. Like, in my own country, our government have acknowledged that what's going on in Gaza is a genocide. I think that's quite unusual. I think we're one of the first in Europe to acknowledge that. I know certainly the Americans and the British and whatnot, the Israel's staunch allies wouldn't go anywhere near that. But you then have a responsibility if you say it is a genocide, because under the convention to prevent and to punish genocidal acts, Ireland then needs to step up to the plate and start to distance itself from its roaring trade with Israel, to take, perceptible, tangible measures against Israel. Otherwise, we are liable to be directly complicit in this genocide. You know what I mean? So there's a bit of responsibility comes with saying this is a genocide, and the people in Ireland know that, and we're agitating so much that the government has come this far, but it's nowhere near far enough. We still, as I say, have a roaring trade. We still allow our airspace to be used by the American military freely, which are bringing munitions to Israel to continue killing innocent men, women, and children. So, you know, Ireland's quite good with strong words. In terms of strong actions, not so good.
Definitely. Do you believe or feel that Ireland and Europe in general are hesitant to take action because they tend to just follow along with what the United States says before they take any action?
Yeah, there was a friend of mine came to Ireland recently. It was his first time in Ireland, and he said it was actually kind of a bit harrowing to hear this, but he felt like Dublin particularly was like, it was like a colonized kind of like corporate America had colonized it. You know, it's like the center point for Google, European headquarters for Google and Facebook and all these other institutions. But other than that, like the places that you go to eat have all become quite Americanized and whatnot. And our government operates really with one eye on what the Americans want all the time. We're so, like, our economy is kind of founded on American multinationals. That's why there's this kind of tiptoeing around Donald Trump, which, to be fair, is not uniquely Irish. I mean, it seems like the world, including, you know, the head of NATO, is also tiptoeing around this kind of narcissistic baby. But the Irish are terrified that if Donald Trump pulls the plug and American multinationals head out of Ireland, our economy will literally collapse overnight. So again, we're very good with the tough words on Palestine, but actually taking actions that the Americans won't like is a different matter, because we're still quite a conservative culture in Ireland, and nobody wants to be the leader who lost all these like massive business opportunities for Ireland because they said some strong words in favor of a besieged population, you know?
Absolutely. And when it comes to your personal advocacy, how did that start? Was it just through informing yourself through social media and through the internet? What brought about your personal journey?
You see, like, it's different from the Irish perspective again, because, you know, I am a Republican, not in the American sense. So we've got our own republicanism here in Ireland, which is about anti-imperialism and anti-monarchy, I suppose, like in the traditional sense, the literal sense of Republican. And I would believe in a 32 county socialist republic of Ireland. That's what I would aspire to. That they were my politics when I was in school. And so, like, I would have grown up visiting the north of Ireland in my late teens. And if you go to the north of Ireland, the murals on the wall are all internationalist in their thinking. It's not just about Ireland's kind of journey towards liberation and Ireland's anti-imperialist struggle. It's about the world. It's about South Africa. It's about Cuba, and Palestine is front and center of that struggle. And so I was kind of aware pretty young that there was these deep, meaningful, spiritual connections of empathy and understanding and solidarity between the two struggles. Be that the armed struggle or not, all aspects of resistance kind of seem to kind of overlap and mirror each other, like in the Irish and Palestinian respective journeys. So I was always aware of Palestine, and I was supportive of their cause. I spent a good bit of time in my early career in comedy, making kind of more surreal or commercial comedy. But as soon as I pivoted towards doing political comedy several years ago, now at this point, I started making sketches about Palestine, because I think it was Nelson Mandela said that, you know, Palestine is the most urgent moral cause of our time. Like there is no, I don't think you can be an anti-imperialist and ignore Palestine. It's really interesting in the kind of discourse where you get people who would claim to be on the left or claim to be anti-imperialist or whatnot, particularly in the States. And then the issue of Palestine comes up and they just don't want to say anything about it because it's too much of a hot potato. Whereas I think it's the acid test, really. It's, if you don't support Palestine, then you actually don't support decolonizing at all. Like, you don't support anti-imperialism. So for me, it's different. As an Irish person, I think most people who are interested in politics in Ireland, when they grow up, they're very aware of Palestine, and they know that it's something it's a noble and just cause to advocate for. And I've just been lucky, I suppose, with the fact that I'm able to do this type of comedy work, and then my advocacy I'm able to kind of get the two of them to overlap. But I certainly didn't, sometimes even the media here, like, you can kind of get accused of supporting Palestine for kind of mercenary reasons, like as if it's what do they call it when you're trying to make money out of something, like
Grifting.
grifting. That's it. I've been accused of grifting for Palestine, which I'm sure you'll agree is kind of one of the more ludicrous charges that could be leveled against you, like when you consider how notoriously awful it is for your career to champion Palestine at all. In fact, championing Palestine in most places in Europe where my friends are could land you being deported from the country, like, so it's a bit away from opening up all these doors in your career. But yeah, look, I know my heart, so I know why I'm doing it. Like, I know I'm playing a very, very, very tiny part in an absolutely massive project, but we got to keep fighting, we got to keep going. Like, I'm very happy to do this work because I feel like I'm a tiny little bit useful, and that's a great place to be, to feel like your comedy is not just about making people laugh, but hopefully playing a tiny role and kind of maybe opening people's minds as well.
Absolutely. And how have you noticed comedy's impact? Do you feel like comedy is able to reach people in a way that other forms of activism isn't?
Yeah, like I find even myself, sometimes I go to the camera and I try to I'm so furious about particularly the West's abandonment of not just Palestine, but of human rights, of international humanitarian law, just basic things that I thought that the West kind of at least pretended that it stood for. I get really angry about it and I go to the camera to make a video about it, and it often doesn't get any reach whatsoever. But then I make a sketch about it that's like, probably way, way shorter, takes up less time, it's much more subtle, and it reaches much more people. Because I think we've got enough people who are kind of being very angry about what's going on and are trying to agitate for change on a political level. I believe that you're probably better off sticking to your skill set if you're going to make some sort of difference, and making jokes about it, lampooning the powers that be seem to be the thing that I'm like reasonably strong at. The amazing thing about satire as well is that it just kind of transcends. So, like, say even on something like Instagram, most of my followers are from the Arab world or the Arab diaspora or like Iran. So it seems that comedy just transcends in a way that, like, long speeches or academic papers or even journalism, it's harder to get it to kind of transcend. So I actually feel very privileged at the moment to have the use of like the equipment that I have here, to be supported enough in Ireland that, like, I'm not going to starve by doing this type of work, and to be able to have a skill set, as I say, that's able to reach people. And I suppose the main highlight for me with satire is that I have many people now at this point in Gaza who reach out to me regularly to say that the videos that I would have done have given them some tiny little bit of respite or hope or something, or that they just support the effort. And sure, that's worth all the gold in China, as my mother used to say.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate it. Loved hearing everything you had to say. And where can people find you?
Pleasure, man, and keep up the great work yourselves. I'm a massive fan of what you do. So if people are looking for me, the main places I hang out these days are YouTube. I'm on everything, like I'm on Instagram and on all the usual places. It's just at Tadhg, Hickey, Tadhg for Tadhg. And if they want to support my work, I'm on Patreon, because I regularly get demonetized and I get like banned from different platforms and stuff. So as long as they don't get to my Patreon, I will still be able to feed my family and do this work. So thank you.
Wonderful. And I'll post your links right over here on the screen as well.
Thanks,
Thank
Paul.
you so much. And I'll see you later.